testimony, and my buddy over here from Hawaii. I am a strong supporter of this legislation because we've lived through this in Alaska. It came out of this committee, the Alaska Native Land Claims Act, where we created 12 regional corporations, and we recognize them as an entity that can contribute and to claim land. And it's worked beautifully. We've had a lot of problems to begin with because there is sort of a hostility to the aspect that, well, they're no different than we are. They are different. They're natives. There's Hawaiian natives and there's Alaska natives. And over the last, since 1971 now, the most strongest group of individuals in the state are the regional corporations. And it helps the state. It is extremely important, the recognition that would be created by this legislation. One thing we have to recognize that there's no, in this act or in the Native Land Claims Act itself in Alaska, could the entity once being created could supersede the state without the agreement of the state. And this is why the governor supports it and why the legislature supports it. This is going to be a cooperative effort to make sure that, yes, they are recognized, and yes, they'll have some different recognition and capabilities than they do now, but they will have better opportunity to improve the state of Hawaii, and that's why you have the support for this legislation in Hawaii. I'm quite proud of what happened in Alaska. We have some still difference of opinion in some areas. There are those who say, well, I'm a native, I was born there. Yes, they're Caucasian, they're not original natives. And that's crucially important because there is a difference. The first Aboriginals in Alaska were Alaska natives. And they've claimed 44 million acres of land. It was public land, and rightfully so. I actually proposed when I was in state legislature at that time 100 million acres of land. Because we have found out that the natives take better care of the lands than the federal governments do. And so we didn't do it. We only got 44 million acres of land, which is bigger than Hawaii, I believe. Again, I want to compliment Neil for what he's been able to do in this effort. I've sponsored these bills over the years, and I want to compliment you on your testimony. And I hope my colleagues understand the importance of this to the Native people of Hawaii and how we've worked together. Our tribes now in Alaska are working with Alaskan tribes together, trying to give advice where the mistakes were made and trying to avoid those mistakes and go forth with this good piece of legislation. With that, Mr. Chairman.
Would you yield a moment?
Yes, gladly.
Yeah, with regard to that, it's an excellent point about the 44 million acres. What we're dealing with here, in practical terms, is 1.8 million acres in ceded land, the former Crown lands, over which the state of Hawaii now has trust responsibility, and about 200,000 acres of Hawaiian homelands, which Mr. Kane directly administers on behalf of the people of the state today. And the reason that you get these questions now, in all honesty, Doc and everybody else, is that when the 1.8 million acres were seen as essentially worthless, which is the reason that these particular lands, because you could have said at the time that the entire state was Crown lands because it was a kingdom and it was operated in a feudal manner, so that the chiefs and chiefesses had fiduciary responsibility in terms of their authority for all of the lands. When we put Western ideas of property and ownership into the equation, well, then it became somebody's land. They owned it. And so the 1.8 million acres essentially were seen as something that the merchant bankers didn't need, or that didn't belong to the inheritors of the Crown lands previously. Merchant bankers came in and married Native Hawaiians and claimed land. So the 1.8 million acres wasn't seen as worth anything. The 200,000 acres that Mr. Kane administers right now, again, we're seen as, well, we'll just give that to the Hawaiians. Nobody wants it. There's no water. There's no infrastructure. There's no anything. It's not useful to anybody who wants to make money out of it. So we'll give that to the Native Hawaiians. Now, come to 2010. How would you like to have, Doc, 1.8 million acres of land in Hawaii today? How would you like to have 200,000 acres in additional land reserved for Hawaiians by congressional act.
I'm always
So-
open to negotiation.
Yeah, that's right. So when we come down to it, when you get right down to the nitty-gritties of all of this has nothing to do with the Constitution. This has nothing to do with race. This has to do with assets, land and money. And when that 1.8 million acres wasn't yielding any money, when that 200,000 acres was out there and it didn't have any value to them, let me tell you, now you got 2 million acres of land in Hawaii. You got hundreds of millions of dollars in funds that are under the care of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs right now, which will go to this new entity, and you've got an income stream in the tens of millions of dollars coming from the lease arrangements on either the ceded lands or the Hawaiian homelands, so that you can build houses, you can put infrastructure in. Now, everybody's interested that they're not discriminated against. And what they mean is how can they get in on owning, controlling, maneuvering, and manipulating that 2 million acres of land, the hundreds of millions of dollars, and the tens of millions of dollars of income stream. I rest my case.
Well,
I'm out of time, but
will the gentleman yield further?
if I have some time, go ahead.
Just a short note, Mr. Chairman, and also to Ms. Hirono. There's another portion of what my good friend Congressman Abercrombie noted. When the Homestead Commission Act passed in 1921 by the Congress, the descendants, and by the way, the big merchants that were there controlling the economy, you call them the Big Five, if you will, were descendants of these missionaries who came to the islands, gave us the Bible, and now they own the land, and the Hawaiians own the Bible. And we have a nice statement from those of us from the islands. The missionaries came to do good, and they did very well. And in essence, Mr. Chairman, this Homestead Commission Act was passed. The 200,000 acres, or the worst portions of the land given to the Native Hawaiians, supposedly to get them back to agriculture and to become self-sufficient, as it was the dream and the aspirations of Prince Kuhio when he served as a territorial delegate for 20 years. And sad story to say, that was the Hawaiians' trail of many tears, because they continue to suffer. From 1921, were never given any opportunities to collectively be part of the economy, if you will. And then for all these years, this is how they've suffered. And I thank the gentlelady from Wyoming for good questions. And I sincerely hope that she will join us in appreciating what these Native peoples have had to endure. And I thank the gentleman from Alaska for his support in this bill. Thank you.